all the more important. He's going to have a lot of high-stakes diplomatic meetings. How will he handle this week? And what about the tweets that he's already sent out this morning about some distractions? We have a panel here. Former George W. Bush political director and chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, is with us. CNN political commentator Ana Navarro, and CNN political commentator, Democratic strategist, and senior advisor for Priorities USA Action, Paul Begala. Nice to have all of you. Obviously, we weren't expecting all of this breaking news out of what's happening with St. Petersburg. We'll keep an eye on that. But Anna, of course, it just calls into stark attention. The world is a complicated and dangerous place, and this week, President Trump is going to be addressing a lot of it. I'll pull up the schedule. Today, he's meeting with Egyptian President El-Sisi. Wednesday, he has King Abdullah of Jordan. And then, of course, Thursday, Chinese President Xi. Thursday and Friday, we should say. What do you think is going to come out of these meetings, Anna?
Look, it's hard to say what's going to come out of these meetings, right? But we see that the international community is flocking to the United States to meet with President Trump. I think a lot of them, frankly, to learn about him because he's a new protagonist on the stage, on the world stage. People don't know much about him or what his real base of knowledge or policies are. But I think what we're seeing today, whether it's the natural disaster happening in Colombia or the explosions happening, the deadly explosions happening in Russia, reminds us all that countries need real leaders. Countries need leaders who at times of crisis can step up and be presidential and be unifying and be the consoler in chief for a country. And I think President Trump really needs to work on that. It's important that all of us have a president that we think we can trust and believe in a time of national crisis.
Paul, obviously Democrats do not think, and many of them, that he is equipped to deal with this level of things. But what he says and what the White House says is it's time to shake things up, and he's going to do things in a more unpredictable manner, and maybe that's good on the world stage.
Well, it's not just Democrats. If you look at the polling, independents, it's favorable among independents is in the 30s. This with an unemployment rate of 4.7%. Not 10% like Barack Obama, who, by the way, was much higher in the polls with 10% unemployment than Trump is with 4.7. But I pick up on what Anna said. First, my heart goes out to people in St. Petersburg. It's just a terrible tragedy. This president, thank God, in his 70 or so days, has not really had any massive external. Thank God there hasn't been an earthquake. There are these terrible fires in the Midwest. They're killing ranchers in Kansas and some of the neighboring states. And I do hope our government does more to help those guys. But in the main, we have, thank God, not yet in these first weeks of the Trump presidency had a crisis. And yet he seems unequipped to handle the day-to-day stress without cracking. And so, look, I want my president to succeed. I really do. I'm not Rush Limbaugh with Obama. But he doesn't even handle the day-to-day well. And I tremble when I think what's going to happen when we have a real crisis.
Matt, what do you think is going to happen this week?
I think the big meetings are the meetings with the Chinese leader. I think we have massive problems, obviously, with North Korea on the Korean Peninsula, but also we have these major economic questions, and so much of the economic questions with China kind of morph into questions of national security. But I think what you're going to see from the president is doing what he's done in all these areas. I think he's going to do what he said he was going to do, and I think he's going to hold China to a tough line. China has taken advantage of the American worker in countless ways, and I think Donald Trump is going to make it very clear that that day is over.
And what does that mean, Matt? Because what leverage does he have against China?
Oh, lots of leverage against China in terms of our, I'll give you one example, currency manipulation. China is a known currency manipulator, as are other Asian countries. And I think he's going to make it very clear that, he's not just going to rubber stamp these questions. I think also on the question, I think all types of ways in which our countries deal with each other economically through trade relationships, I think as well. I think he's going to make it very clear that he wants reciprocity. He wants fairness.
Okay.
And so I think, I think it's a critical meeting, and I think the Chinese are realists, and I think they're going to be listening.
Anna, how's that going to go?
Look, I think it's going to be, it could be. It's got the potential of being a fairly good week for Donald Trump. He's going to be standing next, shoulder to shoulder with some major world leaders. He's also probably going to get his Supreme Court justice nominee out of committee and, going to get a vote. Neil Gorsuch is going to be confirmed. The only question is how much pain will it be? Will it be a little pain or will it be extremely nuclear type pain. Now, if Donald Trump can only resist the urge to tweet stupid things and get into fights with little people, big people, world leaders, and domestic partners, you know, department stores, plays, anchors, if he can only resist that urge and maybe be disciplined for 7 days, he might have a good week, coming off of a terrible week where, you know, his folks are getting investigated for ties to Russia, where he had a horrible defeat on healthcare, where he's fighting with everybody, Democrats, Republicans, and everything in between. So, you know, maybe if he can be disciplined and stick to message and stick to what they put in front of him, sign the executive orders instead of fleeing the room like a cat who just saw a big dog, maybe he can have a good week.
Paul, Anna, Matt, thank you. We'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much.